Hi, this is Ned Siegfried from Siegfried Jensen. As proud sponsors of BeliefCast, we hope you are inspired by Todd's weekly podcasts, which contain so many courageous stories of recovery and personal growth. Remember, it's not what happened in the past that matters, it's what happens in the future. We invite you all to work hard and be optimistic about your future. Enjoy today's podcast.
Hey everyone, this is Todd Sylvester with the Todd Inspires BeliefCast. Welcome to the You're OK Mental Fitness Studio. I would like to thank our sponsors, Ned Siegfried, Luke Peterson, and Todd Bradford with Siegfried and Jensen, Mark Richards with Wasatch Recovery, Colby and Mackenzie with Thread Wallets, Drew Peterson with First Digital, Greg Jackson with Mountain West Spine and Orthopedics, and Travis Whitaker, the owner of Living Recovery Interventions. And also, I'd like to give a shout out to Paul Cardall. The music that you hear at the beginning and the ending of these episodes is by Paul Cardall. He's an amazing person, and he's been one of my heroes for years. So thanks to all my sponsors and Paul Cardall for believing in me. I love you guys so much. Please enjoy this next episode. Welcome back. This is Todd Sylvester with the Todd Inspires BeliefCast. Thank you for tuning in once again. As always, I love you guys, and I'm so grateful that you guys are willing to listen to these episodes and share them with people. And I know it's not because of me, it's because of these amazing guests that I have come on. Today we're joined by an amazing person, Kelly Clark. Kelly, thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thanks, Todd. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah. Kelly's got quite the story, guys. If you think you can't overcome your problems, Kelly is living proof that you can. She is married to Weston Clark.
That's right.
And that's how I got to meet you, is through Weston. Weston was a former client of mine, came through Wasatch Recovery. Yes. And the guy's on fire, right?
He is. He really is. Yeah.
And he's now married to you, which is awesome. And you both have stories of recovery, which are both amazing.
Yes.
I've had Weston on the podcast before, so I'm just really honored that you're willing to come share your story with us. I know your story is going to save lives. I really do believe that. And I know it's a big thing to say. Yeah. But I really believe that because you have been through so much. And I think when people hear, how did she get through that? How is that even possible? Right. And so I'm just honored to have you here. And
Thank you so much.
A little background on Kelly. As you well know already, she's a recovering drug addict and alcoholic who spent 3 decades. 3 decades. That's a long time. Battling this. She's been plagued by the effects of mental illness and addiction. You were also homeless, and you even got into some prostitution. And I know you're very open about that. And again, I can't thank you enough for being so vulnerable around that. Back in 2016, after finding faith in Jesus Christ and entering a 12-step recovery, her life of tragedy and despair transformed into what she's doing now of purpose and hope. And more importantly, I think seeing all the good you're doing and helping other people. I mean, that's huge, right?
Yes, thank you.
And you're a published author, a public speaker, a podcaster. You're a social media influencer. You've dedicated your life, like we said, to sharing the reality of hope with those who continue to suffer. Your husband's the same way. I think that's why you guys are such a good duo.
He's like the boy version of me.
Exactly. Like it really is true. You guys are so much alike in that way. And by the way, I'm not just saying this because, I know Weston, but you two are probably 2 of the nicest people I've ever met.
Oh, that's so nice of you to say.
Yeah, and it's true. And I think people who do know you wouldn't argue. Yeah. They'd go, they are the nicest people. Even when Weston came through here on day 1, when he was still struggling and really in a bad place, still one of the most respectful, nicest people in that moment.
Oh, wow.
He really was.
Oh, that's
like
amazing.
He was never defiant or anything. Sure. Anyway, Weston, shout out to you. I love you, brother. And I'm grateful that we have Kelly, your beautiful wife, on today. And so why don't we start? Tell us where you grew up and maybe a little bit about your family.
Sure. So I am the middle of 5 children, and I grew up all over the country. I went to 16 different schools growing up.
Dang.
Yes. My dad's work brought him like all over the place. So I've lived in Minnesota, Missouri, Michigan, California, and Utah. Montana, you name it, I've lived there. So we grew up really lifting up roots. But
did you like that, or was it hard, or both?
I think there were parts that I enjoyed, living in small town Annandale, Minnesota, but then also moving to Yorba Linda, California, which felt like Beverly Hills to me. And so I liked the idea of moving around and having these new experiences, but it was really difficult to, even though I had a personality that was one that liked to make friends, but I was a little bit shy too. So it would be hard sometimes, especially when I got into like junior high age. I was a little awkward. So
right.
Made it a little
well,
hard.
And the reason why I asked that question, sometimes that can be kind of traumatic. You start finding some roots at a school and you got your friends, and all of a sudden, well, we're moving.
That's right.
I mean, so that's why I asked that question. I would imagine sometimes that was a difficult thing.
It was definitely. Yeah, it for sure. I think that impacted all of us a little bit. Yeah. Even now, I think that we feel that in our adult relationships, that sometimes it's hard to connect, or because we're so used to having to let go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So how were you as a child? Were you rambunctious and kind of an outgoing, or were you more introverted? Or
it kind of changed, I guess. When I was really young, I loved to go out and play with my friends, and we had, I specifically remember a time when we lived in Minnetonka, Minnesota, and we lived in this great neighborhood with all these kids, and I was around 7 years old, and I can just remember playing and being pretty, just unaware of myself in a sense. I didn't deal with anxiety yet, but then it was like one day I woke up with an anxiety disorder that was really potent, and we didn't talk about things like that then. So my behavior seemed strange to my parents, because I was really sensitive. I started to not want to go to school. I started to kind of have what they would consider temper tantrums, but really I was having panic attacks, but they didn't know. And so here's this kid who was really well behaved and would listen, and all of a sudden I was a little bit of a nervous wreck all the time, and they just didn't know what was wrong with me. So but that was tough, maybe not feeling understood, and even how to express what's going on. That was the hardest part. As I look back, I was this little girl with this stuff going on in my head. It felt like I had just negative voices in my mind all the time, just telling me, you're not good enough, you're unworthy, you're not as good as the other kids. And so that really began to wear on me. It just wore me down. And I felt like I was always disappointing people. I felt that all the time. It affected my sleep. I can remember having nightmares and waking up in the night and just trying to get through it. Yeah.
Yeah. So. And how old were you when you started noticing this?
7, 8.
So pretty young.
Pretty young.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to me, from my memory, it feels like a light switch just flipped. Like I was totally kind of, it just felt like it just started one day.
Yeah, you're like, where is this coming from?
Yeah.
Right?
Right. Yes. And you don't really have the language to describe it to people, or the understanding. But as I look back as an adult, I can see this was the onset of like anxiety and depression, pretty severe.
Right.
Yeah.
So your parents noticed something was wrong. Yes. They just didn't know what it was.
They didn't know accurate? What it was. Okay. Yes. And after some self-injury episodes, for someone who just sort of manifested, and they're like, I would do things like gouge my neck, and in stressful moments and things that just seemed a little over the top for them, that they were terrified. They didn't know what to do. They did bring me to go see experts at times, or to a therapist, and other than really just saying, she seems like a normal child, but maybe just dealing with some relationship issues with her siblings, there doesn't seem to be anything going on, but I don't think that they were aware enough back then.
Yeah. So was this also, did that lead up to when, you started maybe getting involved with substance abuse and things like that?
Absolutely. Well, and interestingly too, like I come from a family of food addicts. So my parents, my father died of heart disease at 47. He had a heart attack and passed away. Wow. And so food addiction and obesity runs in my family. And so I actually started abusing food as a drug very young until I found drugs and alcohol. So my system was really primed for sort of the next substance that was going to work to get me out of my feelings.
Wow. I bet that was a difficult time, obviously losing your father at
Yes.
such a, you were young and then he was young. 47's young.
I know. I'm 47 now.
You're 47 now,
I
yeah.
am, yeah.
Wow.
So
How did you deal with that? Or was it just more into that, maybe that addiction with food and other things?
Yes. So, our family kind of went through a hard time. So I was raised LDS. Both my parents were converts to the church, but my family left the church when I was 13 years old. And my father was actually excommunicated at that point, and my family stopped going to church.
Okay.
And so there was a big disruption sort of in our household at that point. And my parents separated, although they didn't get the chance to divorce because my father had a heart attack and passed away. But it was really hard. And right at that time is when I kind of figured out who the friends were that were going to have drugs, and I was really trying to act out. And so I was able to finally sort of meld into a group of friends who had the access to things like drugs and alcohol. And so that was all happening, just sort of budding as my dad, passed away unexpectedly. So it was sort of a domino effect of all of a sudden our whole lives changed, lots of family stuff going on, and then the loss of my dad on top of already sort of starting the drugs and alcohol. So it was a hard few years.
Wow, to say the least. Yeah. I mean, call it a faith crisis, I guess, that the family was going. I mean, that's heavy stuff. That's like, and then and obviously, the passing of your father, had to have been very difficult. So take it from there. That led to, I mean, you obviously got involved with drugs and alcohol. Just take us through your story and then how it led to even prostitution and things like that.
Yeah. So, I feel like I was just kind of wired to be an addict to anything and everything. I was willing as a teenager to experiment with all of it. My behavior was such to, I think I believed that voice in my head that told me I was unworthy, that I didn't have value. And so I behaved that way and started really promiscuous kind of behaviors off and running. Like, it was very extreme and very, almost found myself in, abusive types of situations. And so that was really difficult to have all the promiscuity happening as a teenager. Yeah. On top of, trying to figure out what drugs I wanted to use, what I would run away and spend weeks on the streets with friends I would make, just living on the streets and just acting out. And I just didn't know how to live a life that I watched my sisters live. I didn't know how to just wake up and go to school and join whatever and just go to just any of that stuff. They made it all look so easy, but for me, I just felt like I was in so much inner turmoil. I just had to constantly be acting out all the time. And so that definitely showed in all of my behavior. And it was really difficult, I think, for my family to even know what to do with a child that is acting that way. So I was in and out of a couple of mental institutions because of a couple of suicide attempts and acting out and self-injury, you name it. So it was really messy, and I sort of got this label of unstable, the druggie, all of those things.
How old were you when you were out kind of on the streets? And
I was in and out on the streets all of my teenage years.
Really?
I would run away, and just kind of take off and then end up back home. And eventually I was, it was too old. I got too old. Like, my mom was like, I'm not able to take you back in. So, and my life, it was hard. At 17 years old, I got pregnant and placed a child for adoption. And then again at 19, I got pregnant and placed that child for adoption. So I just began to sort of add up these scarlet letters, what felt like scarlet letters on my arm of you're a bad mother, you're unworthy, you've already just thrown your life down the tubes. Here you are at 19, 20 years old, and you've already lived enough of a life. Like, I couldn't even relate to people my age anymore because my life had already been so extreme.
Wow.
Yeah. So I for a short period of time while I was pregnant, and waiting to give that baby up for adoption, I lived with my sister and her husband in Provo, and they were going to BYU. They were just newlyweds, and here they were going to take in, the rebellious teenager. And I had a couple of really powerful spiritual experiences during that time. I had managed to scrape together sobriety during my pregnancies, which I'm so grateful for because both of those children were born healthy.
Boy, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was a miracle,
Miracle.
really. And I had a couple of experiences where I was, brought to church with them and they were trying to befriend me, all of the other girls in my age, but they were all living this very different life. Here I am, I'm in my third trimester, I'm showing up at church, and you cleaned me up and I blended in pretty well, except for the fact I was pregnant and unwed. But I wanted to be like that. I thought, well, this would be so nice if I could be in college and be planning my future, but that's not who I am. I didn't feel like I was even in their category and didn't know how to overcome that feeling at all. It was a hardcore belief inside of me that I was damaged, used up, too broken. I mean, even our conversations, they were so sweet, but they'd talk about how many boys they kissed. I couldn't even count how many people I had slept with. And so how do you relate? How do you find common ground? And so I had committed to going to church and maybe trying a different life after the baby was born. But I think that belief was so hard. Ingrained.
Well, you go back to when you were 7 and 8 and going through that anxiety and those panic attacks and not being able to truly express what was going on.
Yeah.
And having parents who, no fault on them, just didn't know how to deal with it. But as a kid, that's hard.
Yeah.
So here you are starting off right there, and it seems like that kind of opened up the door to all of this.
It did.
Does that feel like?
It does to me if I look back now and think, where did it start? It really started with this belief. I bought into this belief that I was somehow less than, so it was okay for me to destroy myself. That was,
Wow. Listeners, did you hear that? Like, our beliefs dictate our behavior. Yeah. She knew she wanted to maybe go to church and be that kind of, go to college, but then that belief would kick in and go, this isn't me. I'm broken, I'm damaged, I'm no good. I can't do that. So therefore your behavior went back to mirroring that belief system.
That's right. And it was almost in a survival mode until this road runs out. Instinctually, I knew that there's impending doom down this road if I continue to go this way. But there wasn't any other option because it was the only way I knew how to go. I didn't know how to sit in something uncomfortable and grow in that space. Oh, it makes me sad. Sorry. But I didn't know how to sit in that space and just to grow and be uncomfortable and be okay with that.
What hit you right there?
Oh, I want to go back to that sad girl and tell her that, that she was good enough. That she was good enough to be there, Yeah. But, I wish I could go back and kind of mother her and let her know that she had, value.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think anyone listening right now can relate with, on some level, I think all of us on some level buy into the belief we're not good enough. And obviously yours ran really, really deep because of the things you had gone through. And then also when you were doing these behaviors that you weren't proud of, but yet it was like this vicious cycle.
Yes,
you're like, I know I shouldn't maybe be doing this, but I am. And that's just, I guess, who I am. And
that's right. We're very reinforcing this idea.
Yeah.
Yes, because now I had all this evidence, right? I let men treat me this way. I let, I've given these children up for adoption. Eventually I got married and had 2 daughters in my marriage and then ended up not being able to stay clean and sober. And just starting that whole acting out cycle again. So then not being faithful to my husband, getting pregnant, placing that baby for adoption, even while I'm married. And
wow.
so it just continued to spiral,
Oh my gosh.
as addiction does and mental
Yeah.
health does.
So obviously you ended up getting a divorce. How long were you married?
We were married for almost 10 years.
Okay. 10 years, 2 girls. Had to
Yes.
give one up. You gave up both or just the one?
I gave up a son.
Oh, sorry.
But I kept the girls.
A son. Kept the girls. Gotcha.
So, yes.
Okay.
So 3 children. 3 out of
3,
my 5 children
okay.
were placed for adoption at birth.
My goodness.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. Well, and I know at the time that had to have been very difficult, but I'm sure, and I guess I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Sure.
Like, how do you feel about it now looking back? At least, I mean, you were doing the best I think you could for them in
That's
those
right.
moments. Is that fair?
That's exactly fair. Yes, I do feel like I did the best that I could considering the circumstances, for sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. So this goes on, you get a divorce and you're still you're in your addiction still.
Yes.
Continue on from there, and like where did that lead to?
Sure. I would try to get some sober time. I was in and out of 12-step recovery. My first meeting, I was 14 years old. It was 1989, if you can believe that.
Wow.
Don't date me. 1989, I went to a CA meeting at the request of some therapist my mother had me seeing, and I could go into this meeting as a 14-year-old.
They were probably like, what is she doing here?
I know. I can remember thinking, yeah, I didn't want the solution. That was the problem. I wasn't ready for the solution because what I was just barely dipping my toe into was finally working for me. And so for a long time, I'd get into some crisis mode and find myself in 12-step recovery.
Yeah.
Just to sort of wanted recovery, but I didn't want it enough. I didn't want it enough yet.
Yeah.
Right. So
that's being
I
fair.
did that for a very long time. And during those times, I could kind of scrape together a few months of sobriety. My mental health really spiraled. I struggled with self-injury, to the point where I was, hospitalized for the cutting. I have, as you can see on my arms.
Yeah. Wow.
The deep cutting that went on for years. And
why does someone cut?
I can say why I cut. I was usually triggered by feelings of abandonment. If I thought I was being rejected or abandoned, then it was overwhelming to my system.
Yeah. And for those who don't understand this, it's the emotional pain is so painful that cutting is almost a relief
That's right.
from that emotional pain. Is that accurate?
Yes. Yeah. And it was almost like a compulsion to do something with the pain that was in me. It was like, I have to do something. And for some reason, even as a child, this idea of being so not okay being in your own skin, I almost felt this visceral urge to peel myself out of my own skin. That is how I know it sounds really intense, doesn't it?
That's intense.
But that was, because it was too much. It overrode my system.
So that kept going, and you went in and out of the hospital or the ER, and
so much of that, even in my adult life, and it just became a pattern of being put in, into some hold somewhere, and them trying to diagnose me with something, and then putting me on new meds, and the meds never seemed to work. It didn't ever really seem to be a chemical imbalance. And so it was really frustrating, I think, for everyone we were all wanting some sort of, pill that was going to make it all better.
like here's what's going to fix
Here
everything.
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And nothing ever seemed to. So.
Yeah. And I think I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Did you have times where you wanted to end your life?
Yes. Just being so tired of it.
I can't imagine. Yeah.
It's
going through that.
Being attacked by your brain all the time is what it felt like. And you want to be I wanted to be a good mom. I wanted to be a good wife more than anything. I was willing to kill myself for my children, yet I couldn't put a life together for them that resembled anything that they should have. And so I didn't know how to do that, how to reconcile why that was happening.
So this goes on for 3 decades.
Yes, it does.
Homeless, giving up your body, cutting your body. Thanks for being vulnerable too and sharing this. This is heavy stuff.
Yeah.
what changed? And talk about that. Like,
Yeah.
where did things finally start to go, wow, I think things are going to go in a better direction for me?
For me, it had to get worse before I was ready for that. When I was 38 years old, living in Utah here with my daughters, still had custody of them. They were 13 and 15, and I found heroin and added heroin to my meth and alcohol problem.
Wow.
And within 2 months, I lost literally everything. I lost custody of my daughters and walked away from my home, packed a bag, and literally just went onto the streets of Salt Lake City. Once my girls were gone, I had no reason to fight.
Goodness.
Like it was so tragic in me, and I didn't know how to fight. So it was like I just totally gave myself into that. And so I was on the streets, but I was living out of the hotels in Salt Lake, and working, putting up an ad and working that way, working the streets that way.
Putting yourself out there that way, and giving yourself up. And that's pretty common here in Salt Lake. That's what happens, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I did not.
I think
have
people
any
don't know
idea.
that, right?
They don't.
Yeah.
I was surprised. Oh my gosh. It's surprising to me this is even coming to mind, but I'm going to say it. I was so shocked and surprised at the market, that was out there for this. Even, I was so surprised. I had no idea that I would receive the kind of response. I mean, there's enough work out there for people to take appointments literally around the clock, hour after hour after
That's
hour.
amazing.
There's a huge demand for that here, and I imagine everywhere. And so that was really, really traumatizing for me, even to think, oh my gosh, there are so many people out there participating in this, and they just look like everybody else. But yeah, and you're just, it's crazy.
Something that just came to my mind, I hope it's okay if I share this. Yeah. One of the definitions of depression, and I think this describes depression better than anything, in my opinion, is pretending to be someone I'm not. Mm. And here I'm visualizing, you and a bunch of other women are working the streets.
Yes.
You said there's this market 24/7 coming to pick you up. Yes. and do that. And on both sides, you guys and the market.
Yes.
Everyone is pretending to be someone they're not. I know that's not you, Kelly.
Yeah, right.
Ultimately, to your core, I know that's not you. And those people going to seek it, same thing. I would say the same thing to them is that it just, I don't know, I just had that visual, like everyone's pretending to be someone we're not. You mentioned when you went to that, when your family member took you to church, you're like, well, I want to be a part of this, but then you're like, but this is not who I am.
Right.
See, you've been pretending to be someone you're not through that addiction for decades.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that is so true.
I don't know, that popped in my
really mind-blowing. I've never thought of it like that before.
Because that's not you. You weren't born to prostitute. No. You weren't born to be homeless. You weren't born to do drugs.
No.
You weren't born to gouge your neck, and try to rip your skin off, right?
Right. Yeah.
And again, not to minimize the pain you were going through, because you didn't know how to handle it as a kid.
Yeah.
But boy, I see this time and time again. People sitting right where you're sitting, they're struggling. But when I see what they're doing, I'm like, you're pretending to be someone you're not.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
Yeah, with no idea how to do anything about it. And it got to the point where, you start to stack up some traumatic events.
Yeah.
Some really traumatic, and then, and I was totally emaciated, covered in sores, and getting the boils from shooting up. You've probably seen some of that stuff, and just dying, really dying, and just a ghost of who I was. But still, that person inside of me is like crying and wanting to be home. I just want to be back to my children, to my home, to my house, to my family.
Gosh.
And of course, they're so devastated, and they're so angry and devastated, and so there's no communication there. So you get very disconnected, and I ended up feeling just like a cockroach living in this darkened, motel room, and the only people I see are people who are not good intentioned people. And so you go through that enough, and you deal with enough of the dealers and the gang stuff and all that goes on out there, and it just wears you down till you're exhausted. And I ended up having a really traumatic experience. One of my dealers thought that I had set him up to be robbed. I had nothing to do with it, but he thought that. And so he had me, by his suppliers, held against my will for like 13 hours. And
Whoa.
they fully believed I had done this. And I had no idea why I was there. I had no idea what was going on. And so I had a hand around my neck. I had, all kinds of stuff go on. And at the end, they literally, like, finally, when I was even allowed to speak, it finally dawned on them that I wasn't a part of this. And so they voted in front of me whether or not they were going to kill me, because now they knew, what are they going to do? Let me go. So they had to make that choice, and they voted in front of me. And it was one vote that saved my life that night, by one person voting. Yeah.
Like, this is stuff you would see in a movie.
I know. But you know what? It happens a lot out there.
Yeah, I'm sure it does.
Things like this happen all the time. Yeah.
But to hear, I'm sitting here,
I know,
and I look at you, and I'm like, I can't even imagine that was you.
I almost can't even imagine.
I'm right.
I look back and I cannot believe that was like a day in the life, because things are so different. But because of that, I left the state. I after I was let go, I was so traumatized, and I just could not continue to give these men my money after everything that had happened. And so I went ahead and left the state. I was able to get off the heroin, but I stayed on the meth and the alcohol, and found myself again in a really bad, and I won't go into all this, but I found myself in a even some worse situations. But I had started to have some interesting spiritual experiences. Meth is the weirdest thing. I swear there's a part of it that opens the brain for very dark spiritual experiences, but also it opens the brain for a possibility of other experiences.
Yeah.
I don't know how it all works, but I do know.
I've heard that before from other people who have gone through that. Yeah. So
the darkness was so obvious to me that there were spiritual forces going on around me. And so I had to sort of open my mind to that idea that, okay, there's darkness here that's going on. But then also through that, I was beginning to have experiences with the light as well, of, well, wait a minute, if this is happening, then maybe there is good spiritual stuff possible at the same time. And when I started to sort of allow that idea to come into my mind that maybe there's spiritual forces at work, then it gave me enough faith to begin to try praying again. And I began to pray in some of the worst situations that only God understands, the kind of stuff, only God gets it.
Yeah.
But in that space that was so hard and so scary, I literally, this God that I was so afraid of and so angry at became my best friend. And it almost didn't even matter anymore what happened to me. I really resolved myself to, whatever happens, if I'm able to get out of this situation, great. And if I'm not, just know, like, my heart belongs to God. And I knew that, and I started to really behave that way. Even with people who were very cruel to me, I began to just show love, because I had control over what I could do. I had control over how I treated people. And that really makes you a target in that world. But I just couldn't. I didn't want to be swallowed up by the darkness anymore. And as I began to pray for the willingness to be willing, that's where I had to start. I don't know how to be willing. I needed the willingness to be willing. And I said, okay, God, like, we're in this together. You do what you have to do to make me willing, and I'll live through it. But I don't know how to create those circumstances. Like, I am too far in the drugs. I'm too far in this situation I don't know how to get out of. I have no idea how to even begin, but I want the willingness. So do it. And I gave him, and I meant it. And man, he listens to prayers because. Wow.
And by the way, reminding, you're doing this in the midst of your addiction. Yes. You're right in the thick of it.
That's right. And it's hell. It is literally, it's like it is hell, because the people I'm around are so dark and so evil, but also those those spiritual doors have opened up. So there's a lot of spiritual attack going on at the very same time. So you're getting it from everywhere.
Yeah.
You're getting it from everywhere.
It's almost like, God's trying to send this wake up call to you.
Yeah.
In the midst of your darkness. Like,
Yes.
hey, here's an exit.
Yep.
Come this way if you can.
Yes.
Please. But here's the exit. Here's a little bit of light that I'm going to show you. Right?
Yes. And I was finally desperate enough. To like, where I wouldn't even give the whole higher power idea a chance ever. Because I thought, well, that's stupid. I thought, this is dumb. I heard people talk about it in 12-step, you got to find a higher power and believe that your higher power is going to help you. And I'm like, what? That's like asking like the Easter Bunny. Is the Easter Bunny supposed to help me? Like, I have real world problems here, people.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, do you know what we're talking about here?
That's right.
Come on.
Okay, I'll call Santa Claus because Santa Claus will show up and help me. And that's what it felt like. I was almost offended by people suggesting that, because I'm like, you clearly don't understand what the kind of problems that I have, right? But truthfully, when it came down to it, when I was desperate enough, and thank God he helped me get to a place where I was desperate enough to be humbled enough to truly ask for that help. And it started happening. It started changing. So many series of miracles. And I see that with people who are first getting clean and sober, when they're first opening up and even trying the higher power thing for the first time. It's like they will get a series of these tender mercies and miracles just sort of go very conspicuously.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that too with people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was more like these slow moments, slow spiritual moments, if you will. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And what was the final, I guess, maybe catalyst that's moved you from the addiction world to all the good you're doing now? I mean, what a contrast in your life. Are you kidding me?
Yes. It has been
mind-blowing.
just literally one day at a time, doing, trusting. I mean, for me, it was when I started exercising faith in Jesus Christ. That was the moment things began to change for me. Was
that the moment that you just mentioned, though, when you said a prayer and you started feeling something different? You had a spiritual. Yeah. Is that the beginning of what you just said there?
It was the beginning. Okay. Yes. Yeah. I got down on my knees and had the most humble prayer I've ever had. It felt like something shifted. I got up from my knees that prayer and something shifted, and it was that same day I was able to finally get away from the people I could not get away from. That same day I prayed that prayer, and there were a series of miracles that happened in order to get me out of that space so I could be safe, and then move me somewhere else so I could have new experiences and amazing experiences. And so, it just started with the one, but it domino affected from there. Just domino affected. And
so, it's kind of like it was light was building on more light, and then a little more light, and then a little more light. Is that fair?
Yes, and right? I grabbed onto the whole concept of my higher power like a freaking spider monkey. Like, I was like, this God thing is gonna work. Like, I was in. Like, I was not tentative about it, and that was the first time in my life I was like, this is gonna have to work, because I knew I was out of time. It was going to be too late. And I'm so grateful, as I know there's so many people who accidentally overdose or don't get that opportunity. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity to get to a rock bottom that didn't take me to the other side.
Wow.
I'm so grateful to have that here.
Yeah, you're a walking miracle. Seriously. I mean, truly. And you're right. It's unfortunate. Some people, I mean, think about it. Some people use one time, they overdose and die.
Yes.
Some people use for 3 decades.
Right.
And they don't overdose and die. Like, it's hard to reconcile that. It is
hard to reconcile.
But you're here, though.
Yeah.
And what I love now is all the good you're doing.
Thank you.
So let's talk about that for a minute.
Sure, yeah.
So you had this amazing experience. You've turned your life over to God.
Yes.
You hold on like a spider monkey. You're holding on for dear life.
That's right.
I love that. So why don't you tell our listeners, once you really started turning your life around, why do you have this desire to help so many people? Like, what's that coming from?
It comes from being so chronically hopeless for so long, feeling like I wasn't worth anything and that there was no hope for me, to all of a sudden having a hope that is so bright, like, and understanding that I was seeing everything wrong. I thought I was right. I thought I was right. I thought I was seeing things correctly. I was seeing things incorrectly. And I had this perception shift and understood there really is a loving higher power out there for each of us who loves us and who will go to any lengths to help us. And we have such value. And when that happened for me, when I began to see that for me, I just was like, it's like you can't help but turn around and think, oh my gosh, there is an entire world of people who don't understand this. And I want to tell them. I want them to know, like, there is hope, there is hope, there is hope. And I believe that even for those who lose their lives to this disease, that there still is hope, that there's still growth and hope and all of that recovery happening on the other side. But how do you have how do you be rescued like I was rescued, and not tell everybody, I want to tell everybody.
That's why we're here.
That's why
today.
we're here. That's right.
No, and I'm glad you're telling us.
Oh, thank you. Me too.
I really am. Wow. I try not to cry here. Man, you're amazing.
Can I tell you my
please.
favorite? I have
don't be sorry.
This thought, and I
Please.
share this sometimes when I share my story,
Please
and
do.
I'll try to sum it up. But but it's my favorite New Testament story, and we don't hear this one a lot. But it's the story of the man of Gadarene, and this is the day on the Sea of Galilee. It's right after the storm comes, and the Lord calms the storm, and everyone says, "What manner of man is this?" Well, that same day they land in the land of Gadarene, and Jesus and his disciples walk up to the tombs where this man of the tombs is, and this man is described as being without a dwelling, filled with devils, cutting himself with stones, crying from the tombs and from the mountains day and night. And they try to bind him, his family and friends, they try to bind him, and they can't keep him bound, and he breaks free. And here's this poor man who is literally in spiritual, physical, mental agony. And Jesus comes to him and heals him, immediately casts the devils out of him. And here he is standing clothed and made whole. And he then follows Jesus and his disciples back to the boat, and he says, I want to come with you, basically. I want to abode with you or abide with you. I want to tarry with you.
Yeah, right.
And Jesus says, no, you're not going to do that. You're actually going to go back, and you're going to tell everyone what great compassion I had on you. And you're going to tell everyone what I've done for you. And what I love so many things about this story.
Yeah, right.
But what I really love about it is that he was healed, and Jesus didn't say, now I want you to go grab your friends, tell them quietly, move to another town, and then nobody will ever have to know your past, and then then you can live without the shame, right? No, his instruction was to go and tell everybody. And that's how I feel. It's like I don't have the shame attached to the past anymore. I that has been lifted because of my relationship with my higher power, with God. And so I don't have to be burdened down by that anymore. And now the past gets to be used as a tool for other people.
Wow.
And I love that. And I love doing it. It is where my joy comes in life.
Yeah, sorry. I know why you love the story. Yeah. Because that guy was you.
It was me.
That's you.
It was me.
I mean, all the way back to when you were grabbing your neck and just trying to...
When I read that story and I said he cuts himself with stones, I was like,
I
know why. I'm sure other people are like, why would someone do that? I'm like, I know why.
The second you started sharing, I'm like, oh, I know why she loves it.
Yeah.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah.
Dang, thanks for sharing that. Sure. That just made my day. Holy cow. Folks, are you soaking this in? This is amazing. Guys, whether you believe in God or if you're struggling with a higher power, call it a higher power, whatever you want. But I do believe there's a higher power out there that loves you, that cares about you, even in your deepest, darkest moments. I mean, Kelly's a perfect example of that. I mean, she was, quote unquote, doing things that wouldn't make her worthy, supposedly. But no, it's not about being worthy. It's about being willing. That's right. And I love what you said. I prayed for the willingness to have the will.
That's right. The willingness for the willingness. That's
where
I had to
willingness
start.
For the willingness. Anyway, you said it much better than I did. Yeah. But wow.
Thank you.
Holy cow. If there's someone listening to your voice right now who is in a deep, dark place and they feel like they're broken, damaged, They're no good, kind of like you felt. What would you tell them right now? You've already shared some amazing things, but what would you tell that person?
Oh, I would tell them, from someone who knows, who's been there, that there is absolutely 100% hope, even though it doesn't feel like it or seem like it. It doesn't matter how many times you've tried before and failed. It doesn't matter how many people in your life are angry or mad at you. It doesn't matter what circumstances that you're in right now. There is absolutely hope. I don't care if you are 90. I don't care if you're 21. It doesn't matter how old you are. Like, there is hope. And where it started for me is by turning to my higher power. And it does, whatever your higher power is to you, if you can turn and ask that higher power for help, I found that that's where my strength comes from.
Well, you even said it. You didn't even believe in a higher power. You thought it was like make believe,
yes,
but yet you tried it anyways.
That's right.
So that's kind of what you're saying, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how silly it seems. In fact, to me, it did seem silly. It seemed so silly. And I had to be that desperate to try it. And how astounded. I was astounded. And I think anyone who actually will try it and really give it some effort will be astounded to find out that we really do have a loving creator who is there in every moment, who is truly in the details of the details of the details of our lives.
Beautifully said.
Oh.
Dang.
That's not my quote.
It was a mic drop. Just drop the mic. Let's move on. If someone wanted to reach out to you, Kelly, if they want to know next time you're speaking, or if they want to get a copy of your book or the things you've published, or if they just have a question for you, what would be the best way for them to do that?
The best way would probably be to reach out to me on Instagram. My Instagram name is The Faith Seed. So The Faith Seed. And if you DM me there, I get to those. And then the name of my book is Between Monsters and Mercy. And that was published by Cedar Fort Publishing, but you can find it on Amazon, and there's also an Audible version.
Love it. And I'll put the links in the show notes so everyone can just get right to it from there. But I do challenge everyone to reach out to you. I challenge everyone to listen to what you do with your podcast, read your book, ask you a question, anything. And like I said at the very beginning, if you think you can't get through to hard times, you are proof that you can. Yes, sometimes we need, if not all the time, we need that help from our higher power, but at the same time, you can do it.
That's right.
If you're listening to this right now, please know that.
Yes.
Man, I'm blown away.
Sometimes the voice in your head is a liar, so.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
You know, and it's funny, I knew a portion of your story. I didn't know all of this, and I'm blown away right now. I don't even know what to say. I'm just grateful that you are alive and that you're now in a position to help other people with your story. And like I said at the beginning too, Weston and Kelly are the two of the nicest people you'll ever meet. You would never guess, meeting you two, that you two had the lives that you had.
I know.
You would think, oh, these guys have been, church-going people their whole lives. They don't know anything. Man, do they know. Weston and Kelly. Freaking A.
Thanks.
Thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much
Seriously,
for having me. It's been such an honor.
It's been a while. We've been trying to do this for a while
I
now,
know.
but here we are. But I'm glad it happened when it did. I think it was perfect timing.
I do too.
And
thanks so
I'm
much.
just so thankful. I will challenge our listeners, please share this with everyone you know, especially those who are struggling. I know you have a family member right now who is lost. Share this episode with them. Send them the link. Text it to them. It's real simple.
Yes.
Tell them to listen to it. Follow back up with them. Let Kelly's story be the catalyst to open up their hearts, because it will. It can't. How could it not, right?
Yeah.
So, thanks, Kelly.
Thank you so much.
You're awesome.
You're awesome too.
Thank you. Okay, guys. You guys have a wonderful day. Please keep tuning in. Thanks for sharing all these episodes. It truly is. It's mind-blowing. And my gratitude for you is more than I can even say in words. So I love you. Until next time, everybody.